My name is Mitchell Miller, and I did my presentation on the forms of communication in IT. The person I interviewed, his name was Chris Dahlke. He currently works for Cisco Systems, and he has also been a network administrator for the Pulaski School District. Before that, he worked for the company I currently have an internship with, Heartland Business Systems, for I think 10 plus years, or at least more than 5. Before that, he worked at another IT job in Ottawa, and he's been working in information technology for over 2 decades, and he's one of the main reasons why I pursued a career in IT. And here is my actual infographic that I made after I interviewed him, and about the forms of communication, written communication that he thought were used most in IT. As you can see, there's email, tech writing, bid responses, and discussion boards, and I will go over those more a little bit later. What I learned during my infographic, I really learned an appreciation for graphic designers. Not that I thought their job was easy, just that it's just hard. I'm not good at it. So I really learned to appreciate how hard that can be, and how important it actually is. I also learned how to use Photoshop. I've never really used Photoshop before. With the help of a couple friends guiding me, I was able to complete my infographic. I also learned why continually tweaking can be a negative aspect. Sometimes it ends up taking too long. And I think the main point I took away was the importance of design and conveying a message. When you look at it, I really like this one. I really like the infographic I made, and I think the better you design it, the better people will perceive it, and the more people pay attention to it. If you make a poster and you just kind of have it's white, black text, there's no images, there's nothing drawing people to it, they're not really going to absorb the information, and they're not even going to stop to read it. So, the first form of technical writing, was emails. It's by far the most used form of communication in IT. The main points I took away from this was, know your audience. You should know when to be formal and when to be informal. Um, and you should know you should know when to be formal and informal, and when it's appropriate to be informal. You should also use proper greetings and salutations. Uh, hello with their proper title if they have one, and then proper salutations. Don't say love, obviously, something like that in a business email. That just doesn't make sense. Um, Make sure you sign off with your name, your full name, maybe even an email signature. If you're at a more permanent job, those are much more formal, and it makes your job a lot easier. Um, Also, you should know when to use email over other forms of communication, and when not to use them. For example, if a problem could be solved in a 2-minute phone call, maybe you should do the phone call instead of playing email tag with someone over an hour or two, and you just don't quite get it done when you should, and you're both doing other things and working on uh, this task you're emailing about. Uh, it just makes you should know when you should use an email, when you shouldn't use an email. My second one was SOPs and how-tos. An SOP is a standard operating procedure. It's very similar to a how-to, but you could compare it more to a best practice document, and they're different between every company. They have their own SOPs and their own best practices, and they're mainly used to like document a process or how things are done, or how the company has decided would be the best way to do things. For example, the company over for Heartland has a best practice on how to configure a Palo Alto firewall so it's as secure as possible. And it allows users to have as much freedom as they should have without putting them at risk. Um, they're all examples of step-by-step documentation, and they explain how to complete a task. And you should use a combination of images and text to make it as clear as possible. So if you're guiding someone, on how to save a Word document, you would take a screenshot of when you first open Word, and maybe you'd highlight in red in the top left corner, file, save, what have you. Um, and you should effectively use text. A lot of how-tos have a huge paragraph for each step, and it doesn't work very well. You lose people, and they kind of get confused. My third one is bid responses, and this one was something I hadn't even really considered. Uh, I compared it to what a quote would be for if you're quoting someone on, or in my job, I would quote someone on devices or services that we would have to provide, and it's pretty much that, but it's like preliminary. So, say a company's like, hey, it's a school district. A school district's like, hey, we're going to upgrade our whole network infrastructure. Uh, who can do it the cheapest and the most effective? And then a bunch of different companies will put in a bid response, and they would explain how they're going to complete the process, what the price point's going to be, why they're buying certain equipment, and why maybe they didn't go with a cheaper option. It's more reliable, or it just fits their needs better. Um, and can actually be a legally binding document. So when you submit it, you have to make sure the goals that you have meet the project constraints and are cost effective, but that the cost isn't so low that you can't meet the goal, because they will hold you to that. And if you go over price, it'll probably end up coming out of your pocket. And a big part of bid responses is to actually persuade the company to pick your proposal over others, because you're almost definitely not going to be the only person or the only company trying to get a bid for, say, a full school dress. That's a pretty big project. Uh, so it's really a combination of persuasive writing and technical writing, and knowing your audience. When you write the proposal, it should be pretty technical. But say when you're presenting it, most of the time you're presenting it to like upper management, and they won't know all the technical terms you have. So you have to word it in a way, or present it to them in a way that they would be able to understand it over, say, any other IT intern or any other IT employee. My last one was internal discussion boards, and I really would not have considered this one until it was mentioned. I realized I actually do use one a lot, and the example of the one I use is called WebEx Teams, or Cisco WebEx Teams, and it's more of a chat room than a discussion board, but technically it is still a discussion board. Um, it's just a really easy way to communicate with different size groups of people. So I'm studying for a cert exam, and our cert exam one has a discussion group, and we all get to post. We all post different issues we have or questions we have, and it really cuts down on unnecessary email chains. A lot of people hate when there's like 10 people on an email and they're all responding, and they reply all, and everyone's getting all these emails, and what could be 3 emails ends up turning into like 50 different emails you've gotten that day. And it's a structured environment, and it allows people to discuss a single topic in that structured environment. And those are the forms of communication that are most important in IT.